Thank you very much, Robin Marsh. Today, as you see on the board, the discourse is about wisdom in public discourse. How is wisdom different from knowledge is a very important thing. The final attainment in Buddhism, which is my religion, when I say my religion, I'm not just a Buddhist monk. I'm the first Buddhist monk in Oxford University to become a Christian theologian by license, 4 years of training. And also I'm a politician in Asia who works from here sometimes and who goes back and forth very often. The interesting point in the Buddhist world is you attain not just mere knowledge. Knowledge is information, but wisdom is different. Wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom is empirical and not theoretical. What you realize from your inner self, that is wisdom. What you learn from the IT, that is information. Wisdom means transformation. Transform for what? For the better. Today we live in a world of big crisis. All of us know this well. To make judgments about one party is not a very good thing. Even Christ said that, isn't it? So we need to be very balanced, living in the here and now, to see the power of now, how we can apply and become more wise, rather than just making opinions. For in war, what happens according to the Buddhist system is, the victor creates an enemy. The enemy lives in pain. The person who is not involved, the wise person with wisdom, he doesn't go into wars, conflicts, and other sorts of violence. He lives well, he sleeps well. It's very important to understand the relevance of the discourse from this point. I'm taking now, as a theologian in Christian sense, how the Buddha and Jesus have related to see the similarities of these two quotations. While the Buddha says, let the wise man do righteousness. The example is a treasure that others cannot share, which no thief can steal, a treasure which does not pass away. Now you see how similar it comes in the book of Matthew in the Bible from Jesus. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume treasures and where thieves can break in and take your treasures. And furthermore, it is said, build up the treasures where there is no moth and rust consume that thieves cannot take. Imagine, 600 years before Jesus, what the Buddha said, you find in the book of Matthew. If I think from a wisdom point of view, there is no superiority in any religion. Because religion is to have a binding with something. Wisdom is not that. Liberational aspects in wisdom when you become wise. Because the moment you are bounded, then you are caught up. That is what in Latin, re ligare, to have that connection. We need to understand the world that multiplicity is a gift of nature. Respect, you will be respected. If you disrespect, you'll be disrespected. This is the universal law. Put religion aside. Think in common sense. Think according to how our conscience can work, that we can understand. Because the tendency of mere faith, rational faith is okay, but mere faith tends to make us blind. So you think, my religion is the best. When you think that, the other religion is already discriminated. So these are very important things that we need to question to see the power of here and now. Can I quote to you from a naughty man called Vladimir Putin? You know what he says about Buddhism? You can't believe this, but this is true. He says, Buddhism is not a religion, because the official line, constitutionally, Russia accepts Buddhism as a science. All the great Buddhist thinkers of Russia, their books are all in the Academy of Science. They are not in a temple. So he says, Buddhism is a philosophy which gives ideal solutions to our day-to-day lives' desperate questions. Coming from Putin. I used to say he put in, I put out. Then he says to the group, he was speaking, being a Buddhist is a privilege. Be proud of being a Buddhist. So, we don't want to be proud. But there are 3 Buddhist states in Russia, despite it's a state which do not believe in religion. And traditional religions of the states are accepted, and Buddhism is one. So there is Kalmykia state, where they have a Buddhist university, where there's a picture of Dalai Lama, where I spoke, and the Vice Chancellor and Chancellor told me, don't just come for 3-4 days, come for 2-3 weeks. That's the welcoming communist message. Can you understand? In fact, Engels wrote to Karl Marx about the value of Buddhism, about the holy book of the Buddhists. So these are a few sentences that I wanted to tell you. Back to my Buddhism and Christianity. In 1894, the Gospel of the Buddha was written by Paul Carus in America, way back. And he says, he admits that the Buddha did walk on water like Jesus, 600 years before Jesus. And this book was modeled, he wrote in the way like the New Testament to explain Buddhism. And he says, the modern world required a new religion of science. Then in 1893, he joined the World Parliament of Religions. We know Swami Vivekananda went. Anagarika Dharampala of the Buddhist leader, reformist, he went. And many others. So from there to now, still the World Parliament of Religions, sometimes I also attend, goes on. The entire Buddhist scriptures were written, translated to English, and transliterated from the Buddha's language, Pali, P-A-L-I, was done by Rhys Davies and his wife and a group here in Oxford, where you have the Pali Text Society. The entire scriptures they did. Son of an Anglican priest. Can you understand? The English was so liberal to understand that, because he went to Sri Lanka as a judge, Ceylon, in the British time, and as a judge, he couldn't understand certain verses. Then he learned the language. That was the sacrifice. If you don't sacrifice, you can never be wise. You just go by information, by hearsay, by knowledge only. Charles Eliot in 1921, he wrote the book called Buddhism and Christianity, where he showed these 2 big giant volumes. Then he wrote Buddhism and Hinduism. And he was the ambassador for the British government representing Japan. And if I may quote Einstein, what he says about all this is what Einstein says. All religions, arts and sciences are branches of the same tree. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you very much.